Sigmund Freud's concept of defense mechanisms refers to unconscious psychological strategies that individuals use to cope with anxiety, stress, or conflict. These mechanisms are typically employed to protect the individual's psyche from unpleasant feelings such as guilt, fear, or internal contradictions. Freud proposed that these defense mechanisms were essential for maintaining psychological stability, as they help individuals manage feelings that might otherwise overwhelm their conscious mind. They act as a protective barrier, preventing the emergence of undesirable emotions or thoughts into consciousness. One of Freud's most well-known defense mechanisms is repression, which involves pushing distressing thoughts, memories, or desires out of conscious awareness. By doing so, an individual may avoid confronting painful experiences or impulses. Another key defense mechanism is denial, where the individual refuses to acknowledge the reality of a distressing situation. For example, a person who has a serious addiction might deny the extent of the problem. Other mechanisms include projection, where a person attributes their own undesirable feelings or impulses to others, and rationalization, where someone justifies their actions with logical explanations to avoid feelings of guilt or shame. Freud also described displacement as a defense mechanism, which occurs when an individual redirects their emotions or impulses from a threatening object to a less threatening one. For example, a person who is angry at their boss may take out their frustration on a family member. Another important mechanism is sublimation, where socially unacceptable impulses are transformed into socially acceptable behaviors, such as channeling aggressive tendencies into sports or creative expression. These mechanisms can have both positive and negative effects, depending on how they are used and the context in which they are employed. Although Freud's defense mechanisms are foundational in understanding human behavior, they have been critiqued and further developed by later psychologists. Some argue that Freud's emphasis on unconscious processes limits the scope of understanding, while others contend that these mechanisms are not always as adaptive as Freud suggested. Nevertheless, defense mechanisms remain a key concept in psychoanalytic theory and continue to influence modern psychological research and therapy, particularly in understanding how individuals cope with internal conflicts and external pressures.